Hey there, CJ Math students. So tonight you'll use this video to do your test corrections. Remember, I've written down 5 problems on the back of your test. You will copy the problems, the answer choice, exactly how it is, and show all work 3 times. Right? So you should have 15 problems with work and answers written on your graph paper by the end of tonight, unless you're a guy that did really well in the test and had less than 5. All right, so number 1, which of the following illustrates the concept of absolute value? The correct answer is C. A illustrates the additive inverse. B illustrates the commutative property. C, we already said, it's the absolute value, and D is not the absolute value because absolute value is not negative. All right, so if you got number 1 wrong and I wrote it down on your paper, you would write this question, these answer choices, and my work with the answer C circled. You would do all that 3 times, right? Number 2, which of the following illustrates the concept of the additive inverse? The answer choice this time is B. A is the zero product property. B, we already says the additive inverse. C again is the commutative property. And D is the identity property of multiplication. All right, number 3, select all that apply, which means there were more than one answer. Which comparisons are true? Negative 10 is less than 10. 8 is not less than 10. It is further right, so bigger. Negative 11 is not less than negative 14 because, again, it is further right. So bigger, so that means negative 14 would be smaller. Negative 20 is less than negative 13, and negative 12 is less than negative 5. All right, number 4, which is smaller, the absolute value of negative 10 or negative 11 and why? Well, first of all, you need to know that the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. So negative 11 is smaller because the absolute value of 10 equals 10, and therefore negative 11 is further left than 10, making it smaller. All right, number 5, you had to order these from least to greatest. So the most negative up at the top, the most positive at the bottom. So it would have helped to first say what these were. So the absolute value of negative 11 is 11. That stays negative 7. This would have been 17 because you had the absolute value of 6 plus 11. This would have been negative 11, and that would have been 6. So then if you order them from least to greatest, you want to take the most negative, which happens to be negative 11, followed by negative 7, followed by the absolute value of negative 6, which is 6, the absolute value of negative 11, which is 11, and the absolute value of negative 6 plus negative 11, absolute value of negative 11, which is 17. Right? So again, if you got this problem wrong and I wrote down your paper, you need to write out those words, write out the problem just like I did, show the work which I did, and then write out your answer. All right? Error analysis. A 5th grader recently completed the following problem. 1/5 plus 2/3 equals 3/8. What was the student's error? When adding fractions, you need to find common denominators. Which the student forgot. All right, now let's fix the error. So we say times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. So that becomes 1. Oh, sorry, I already messed up. It becomes 3 over 15 plus 10 over 15, which is 13 over 15. So you would put that answer there. Again, if you got this problem wrong, and I told you this is the one that I want you correct, you need to copy everything down just like I have, basically this whole section 3 times. The idea is for you guys to get any mistakes out of your head and then copying it over and over and over again, hopefully it will settle in. So you need to label the type and solve it. So this is a DSSL. This is an SSAK, same signs, add, keep. This, after I KCC, is a SSAK. Sorry, I'll make that one a little bit clearer. So keep, change, change, and then keep, change, change, also SSAK. So this one is positive 4 because you had more positives. This is negative 14 because you keep the sign. This is positive 8 because you have nothing but positives, and negative 11 because you keep the sign. Over here, different signs negative, same signs positive. I told you to replace that with a 5 on the test. This is different signs negative and same signs positive. So here we have negative 35, we have positive 49, we have negative 5, and we have positive 10. All right, number 9, a student says the following problem's answer will be positive. Is he correct? Explain why or why not. We have how many negatives? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are an odd amount of negatives. Therefore, his answer will be negative. He is incorrect. You could say he is incorrect because they're not amount of negatives. Sorry, not a language arts teacher. Number 10, a student is concerned that it will be too difficult to find common denominators for the following problem. Should he be worried? What should he do? He should not be worried. Because you don't need common denominators when multiplying. You can just cross cancel and then multiply straight across, right? All right. Number 11, you need to keep, change, change first. So keep, change, change. So I would have added this part up first, and that gives me 6 plus 12 gives me 18. Number 12, I would have keep, change, change first, and then I would have rewritten it as 7 plus negative 4 plus 4. This part gives me 14. This part, additive inverse, gives me 0, so B should have been your answer. Keep, change, change. What's the type here? It's SSAK, so just add them up and keep the sign. Lining up my decimals, this is 14, carry my 1. That's 10, 10.4, but keep the negative, right? Keep, change, change. This is DSSL. So again, line up my decimals, but put the bigger number on top, and the big number is actually 6.74. It's a bigger absolute value than 1.4530. Even though this is longer, you just plug in a 0 there. So we're subtracting. We're going to have to borrow here. This 4 becomes a 3. That becomes a 10, so 7. We have to borrow again. That's a 6. That's 13 minus 5 is 8. 6 minus 4 is 2. Decimal. 6 minus 1, 5. And remember, it's negative because we had more negatives, so B, negative 5278. The decimal stays there. Right, so again, if you're getting any of these problems wrong and I told you to redo them, you have to write out all the work that I've done, all the answer choices, basically just copy it 3 times, 3 times, 3 times, 3 times, right? Number 15, this is a problem where you need to borrow, so plus a negative, so you need to borrow from the 2, it became 1 plus 6 over 6 plus negative 5, 6. And now we just have a simple DSSL problem, right? So 6 plus negative 5, 6 gives you 1 and 1/6. And A is your answer there. So again, keep, change, change here. I would have broken this apart into negative 3 plus negative 1/2 plus 3 plus 1/6. And then I would have said, all right, commutative property time, negative 3 plus negative 1/2 plus 1/6. I say, hey, those guys cancel out. So really all I'm working with is negative 1/2, plus 1/6. So times 3 times 3. And what does this give me? It gives me negative 3/6 plus 1/6, which gives me negative 2/6. And some of you might have panicked and said, wait a second, where's that answer? It's not there. Just need to simplify. Divide by 2, divide by 2, gets you negative 1/3. C. Right. 17, just plug in. So you have A is equal to negative 11, plus a negative there. B is equal to 8, plus negative 8. And C is equal to 6, negative 6, excuse me, plus negative 6. So this is just a SSAK problem. Do those first, gets you negative 19 plus negative 6. Gets you negative 25. Remember to keep the negative sign because they're both negative. And we're adding. 18, before splitting anything apart, I would have hoped you guys could have realized that, hey, I think we might have an additive inverse problem here with these guys. So negative 1 4/5 plus 1 4/5 using the commutative property, plus negative 3.8 plus negative 1.4. So yes, those guys do in fact add up to 0. So then it's just SSAK. So line up your decimals, add them up, and keep the sign. So we have 8 plus 4 is 12, carry your 1, and that will give you 5.2, but remember it's negative because you need to keep your negative signs, so B. Right, 19 and 20, yes, if I told you to rewrite this, you do need to write the words, all the work, everything like that 3 times. So on Monday, the temperature was 22 degrees, starting off at 22. By Tuesday, the temperature fell by 8, so plus negative 8. On Wednesday, it rose by 7, so plus 7. So I would have gone ahead and said, all right, let's do 22 plus 7 plus negative 8. Just get this commutative property going here. 29 plus negative 8 gets you 21 degrees Fahrenheit. Nice and simple. All right. And Alexander has reached the number 23, but he has to go back 10 spaces 4 times in a row. So going back is your negative, so plus negative 10, but you want to do it 4 times, right? So order of operations means you have to do this multiplication first. So 23 plus negative 40, and that's a DSSL problem, so we have to do 40 minus 23. Remember that it's going to be negative because we have more negatives here. So 10 minus 3 is 7, 17, negative 17 is the space that he ends up on. All right, now on to the multiplication stuff. So section 3, computation with multiplication division. This was a DSN problem because you only had 1 negative. This happened to be an SSP problem because you had 2 negatives. So multiplying here, you get 12. 12 times 4 is 48, but remember your negative, so negative 48 should have been your answer. Here you should get 18 divided by 3 is 6, divided by 2 should give you 3, and your answer stays positive because you only had 2 negatives. All right, 23, 9 over 1 times negative 2 over 3 times negative 1/5. Yes, you should write the problem and then rewrite it just like I've rewritten it. All right, so we can cross cancel here by dividing both by 3, and then multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1, times 5 is 5. It's positive 6 over 5 because you have 2 negatives. Right? Number 24 is negative 1 over 1 times, flip it, 1 over 8, negative, multiply straight across, you get, you get 1 over 8, and it's positive 1/8 because you had 2 negatives. Number 25, you just need to flip-flop, so it really should become 1/2 times 5/4, so you can ignore the negatives because all of them but the bottom one will be negative. 3/5 times 3 over 2, 3/4 times 5 over 3. So here we're going to get 5 over 8. That's why that easily matches up with that one. Here you're going to get 9 over 10. That's why that easily matches up with that one. And you don't even have to do the math on the last one to match up. Process of elimination. Number 26 was a problem directly from your homework. I really wish you guys would start paying attention. Just use the commutative property. So 4 over 1 times up. There's a guy that's the opposite. 1 over 4 times, all right, let's do 1 over 3 times up. 3 over 1, and then times 6 over 1. Why did I do that? So I can see, oh, diagonally, these guys are going to cancel out. And that's exactly what happens. 1, 1, 1, 1. Because I divide by 4 here, divided by 3 here. So if I multiply straight across, I get nothing but 6 over 1. Now I got to look, I see how many I only have two negatives, so therefore it's a positive 6. Okay? Yeah, you're right. You could have gotten 72 over 12, but that's not simplified. And so making sure that you cross-cancel, always simplify your answers. 27, almost all of us got this wrong. So yes, you're going to write down, evaluate the algebraic expression, x equals negative 6, xy equals negative 5. You're going to write this down. Then you're going to write down, okay, I got to keep that negative. Now I get to plug in negative 6 times negative 5. All right? Now I do go ahead and say, okay, this is negative 6 times negative 5 is 30. But it's the opposite of that, so that negative stays, and that's why it's D as my answer. Okay? Multiplication when you have variables right next to each other. Number 28, B is 5, C is negative 4, so 5 times negative 4 divided by negative 2. Do 5 times negative 4 first, which is negative 20 divided by negative 2. What's negative 20 divided by negative 2? It's positive 10. All right, order of operations we're plugging in. So y squared is 1 squared minus z, which is negative 5 times negative 6. So we have 1 minus 30. Why is that positive 30? Because you had a negative times a negative. That's just 30. So 1 minus positive 30 really is 1 plus negative 30. And that's how you get negative 29. C. All right. PEMDAS says you do order of operations. So you do parentheses first, excuse me. So 14 divided by 7. What's inside this parentheses? Negative 18. Now I look left to right, and it happens that, oh, I can divide, because as I move left to right, division pops up first. I don't have to do this 7 times negative 18. So that gives me 2 times negative 18, and then 2 times negative 18 is negative 36. All right, 31, again, PEMDAS. So we'll have 8 divided by, do this first, which is 2 plus 8 squared minus 6. PEMDAS says we do exponents next, so 8 divided by 2 plus 64 minus 6. All right, so now we do look left to right. Okay, 4 plus 64 minus 6. All right, keep going, working it left to right. 4 plus 64 is 68 minus 6. I get 62. B. All right, 32, again, straight problem from BuzzMath. This is your distributive property. This is your additive inverse, which we've been working with all day long. This is your zero product, obviously. This is your positive product. Negative times a negative is a positive. That's your negative, because I only have one negative. And this is your commutative property. Right, there are your answers. The enrollment at Davis Middle School dropped by 60, so there's negative 60 students over a 5-year period. What is the average yearly drop? Average should indicate, okay, I'm dividing by how many years I had, which was 5. If you put down 12 or negative 12, I gave it to you. You could say that the drop is the negative word, so you don't even need the negative sign. So you could say dropped by 12 students every year. But if you just put negative 12 students, I'm fine with that. All right. 34, 5th grader tries to tell you, you always multiply before dividing when doing PEMDAS. Is this 5th grader correct? Or why or why not? He is incorrect because you do multiplication or division, whichever comes first. As you read left to right. So for instance, I think it was Mr. Pearman even gave me an example on his test, but it was, he said in the problem that was, looked like 8 times 8 divided by 1. Yeah, you would do the multiplication first, which is 64 divided by 1, which equals 64. But when you do 8 divided by 8 times 1, you do the division first, which is 1 times 1 equals 1. So major difference there. That's why you have to do it as you read it from left to right. So here, as I read it from left to right, multiplication popped up first. Here, as I read it from left to right, division popped up first. All right, and last one, which statements are true? Subtraction is not commutative. That is true, right? 5 minus 3 is not equal to 3 minus 5. This would give you 2. This would give you -2. Subtraction has an identity property. That is true. 5 minus 0 is the same thing, as, 5 minus 0 is, anything minus 0 basically is going to be the same thing. That's what the identity property is. So 5 minus 0 is going to be 5. But is subtraction associative? That is incorrect. So you had the first 2 that were true. All right. Call me if you have questions, but I'm only giving points back to guys that follow those direct instructions of copying the problem, copying the work, and copying the answers 3 times.